That was fun. You all made me have to do it loud. I never get to do that. We are back. I will start by recognizing that the Mount Diablo Unified School District sits on the territory of the Confederate villages of Lishan, the ancestral and unceded land of the Bay Miwok and Northern Yokut, the successors of the sovereign Verona Band of Contra Costa County. As members of the MDUSD community, it is vitally important that we not only recognize the history of the land on which we learn, but also we recognize that the land we inhabit and learn on is the ancestral land of these people who are alive and flourishing members of MDUSD and broader Bay Area communities today. You can rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States. All right. 6.2, review and potential approval of minutes of the regular board meeting. Can I get a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the minutes for the regular board meeting.
I'll second that.
Trustee Barrios.
Yes.
And that passes. 6.3, review and potential approval of the agenda. Are there any changes? All right.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Trustee Barrios.
Yes.
And that passes unanimously. 7.0, report out on action taken in closed session. 7.1, negotiations. The board may discuss negotiations or provide direction to its representatives regarding represented employees pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. We received information. 7.2, discipline, dismissal, release, or reassignment of public employee, Government Section Code 54957B1. I don't believe we received anything. 7.3, public employee performance evaluation, superintendent, pursuant to Government Code 54957. We received information. So now we'll move on to public comment. A reminder that in public comment, because there are items that aren't on the agenda, the board can only listen and hear and can't respond or discuss anything that you bring forth. And we have, we'll give 3 minutes. We'll give less than 3 minutes. Hold on, let me do some math. What's 2 minutes times 14? That's 28. We'll give 2 minutes, and we will give, if you have less than 2 minutes, that would be great, because that could give others, we could allow more grace. There you go, sorry. So first is Carmel Goulin. Okay, we do give grace to students, go ahead.
Español es un lenguaje importante para muchos, especialmente mí y mi clase. Mi clase estaba juntos por 6 años aprendiendo español. Para mantener nuestra fluencia necesitamos un maestro que está fluido en español. En español podemos escribir, hacer matemáticas, leer y mucho más, y quiere continuar eso y mejorar. Spanish is a language that's important to many, including my class and me. We have been together for 6 years learning Spanish, and to maintain our fluency, we need a teacher that is fluent in Spanish so that she can help us practice, learn new things, and improve. We are in accelerated Spanish, which seems to be comparable to my brother's AP Spanish class. I am here today to ask you, Mount Diablo board, to help me and Foothill Middle School find an appropriate fluent Spanish teacher. Gracias por escucharme y espero que encuentre a alguien muy pronto. Adiós.
Thank you. Kip Panovich. Kip, is he outside?
Good evening. Got a new year, got some bargaining coming up. Hope you remember to attract and retain. Money does win. Last spring, there was a link placed in one of the weekly newsletters to watch a panel discussion about attraction and retention that Dr. Clark participated in. So I watched it. And the one thing that kind of disappointed me a little bit overall was that nobody talked about, let's make sure that their compensation is strong. One of the people on the panel actually made the comment that we just need to make teachers feel better about themselves and then they'll stay. And as I'm listening to that, I'm going, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. If you are not solidly making a living, I think we all like what we do as teachers, but it is a job that helps us support our life. And if we don't make enough and we can make more going elsewhere, we're not going to want to come here and we're not going to want to stay. At our site, it kind of floored me when we had a teacher leave who had 15 years and said, I'm leaving with a raise. That was unheard of 10 years ago. And that's easy to do now because everybody is giving full service credit. I at least appreciate Tony Thurman, who's willing to put it out there that if we want to get teachers and try and attack the shortage, we need to pay teachers more so that we can get them to come in here. So I hope that that will be kept in mind as you have your discussions about the negotiations going forward, because we do need to attract and retain the best teachers we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicholas Selby.
I'm Nicholas Selby. I am a middle school math teacher at Pleasant Hill Middle School. And we currently have new teachers that are coming in from out of country, which is great, but the district is failing to support them and onboard them correctly. So they're not ready to start when they get here. And that's been a major problem. And again, we have a crisis in our district. We're hemorrhaging teachers at a turnover rate of 17%. That's higher than everyone else around us. We need to not only attract new teachers and support them, but we need to figure out how to keep the ones we have, right? The actuals are out. We have a surplus of $50 million this last fiscal year, right? This is a bargaining year, right? If I hear again from the district that we're in a structural deficit, that's ridiculous. And it doesn't take a middle school math teacher to figure out that someone's lying. Thank you.
Thank you. Claire Morris.
Hola, mi nombre es Clara Morris. Soy un estudiante de sexto grado de 11 años en edad de la escuela secundaria Foothill. Estoy en la clase de español acelerada. Necesitamos un profesor de español. Los estudiantes de esta clase no están aprendiendo nada porque no tenemos un maestro. Hemos tenido muchas sustitutas, lo cual de por sí no es bueno. Tenemos sustitutos en el pasado que ni siquiera hablan o al menos entienden español. Al comienzo del año escolar teníamos un sustituto que dijo, cito, tal vez puede aprender algo de español de ustedes. Sé que especialmente ahora puede ser difícil encontrar un profesor de español. pero nosotros como estudiantes que hemos estudiado español durante 6 o 9 años o posiblemente más, estamos muy decepcionadas. Gracias.
Thank you. Mandy Lockwood.
Hi there. My name is Mandy Lockwood. We worked together as a staff at our school to put together this statement. I'm a third grade teacher at Gregory Gardens in Pleasant Hill. We'd really like to speak to you tonight about a few things that we're really struggling with at our school site. Number one is access to services. Children need and deserve help and support as they navigate our post-pandemic world. There is a lack of specialized behavior support in general education classes. Many of our students are struggling with anxiety, trauma, many issues that call for access to counseling and mental health services. And while teachers work very hard at our school to provide social emotional learning lessons to all of our kids at Gregory Gardens, we have many students who need more specialized help. We need a consistent counselor to be at our school more than 2 days a week, which is all we have right now. We need trained specialists who can work in classrooms with our children with severe behavioral challenges. Number two, we want to talk about class sizes. I myself transferred in from Hayward. Before that, I was in Oakland. Class sizes here are too big. They're just too many kids in the classrooms. 31 students in grades 1 through 3 is way too high. How are other districts setting numbers at 24 or below? Also, when there is no sub coverage, our classes are split up, divided into neighboring classrooms, and some classes are pushing 40 students on those days. It's really difficult to meet the needs of kids under those conditions. Our district has poor substitute practices. Having this many students in the room was proven a health issue during COVID and can become a safety issue as well. And number three, we want to talk about prep time. We need more time to prepare quality lessons for our students. We would really like to see PE teachers for comprehensive PE programs for all grades. It supports students' large and fine motor skills, collaboration skills, social skills, health, and wellness. Let's hire and retain more prep teachers who are experts in their specific subject and give them the time to teach their subjects well. Our prep teachers and specialists are often stretched between numerous different schools every year, packing back-to-back 30-minute lessons throughout the day. Let's give students quality instruction time from prep teachers who are supported by their district to do their job effectively. Mount Diablo Unified.
If you can wrap up.
So much about equity, and at Gregory Gardens, we're dedicated to social justice in our lessons on the playground in our school-wide practices. However, a profound way to address inequity is to attract and retain teachers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jane Enlow.
Hello, you know me, I've come here quite a few times. I just want to thank you, and I hope you approve the negotiations that went on today with Medea and the health benefits, but you still have $182 million surplus. And that money, you can increase our COLA for the upcoming negotiations. That would be really helpful, as when I take that 4% and I'm all the way over and all the way down on the pay schedule, I take a pay cut every year. And I'm one of your teachers that wants to stay here until they retire. Really, I do, but you're making it very difficult to do so. You could take full medical, and then I wouldn't have to worry about the increase in the medical. That would be really, really helpful. You could do class equalization for secondary. English has 33, science and math has 37. You could try to equal that in the negotiations that are coming up. You could have incentive pay for tenure teachers as well to keep them here. You can have librarian. We'd love librarians. I just read a book that said librarians increase test scores when they are there full time. You could have your test scores shoot through the roof and just be that much better of a district. And music teachers. You cut out 4th grade music. I'm sure, I don't teach elementary, but I used to be there and I know how important they are. The things that would help us retain and get new teachers, as we have over 30 openings still this year right now. And think about why we have that. We have that because we're not getting paid enough. Our medical isn't 100%. We've asked for these things before. I know I keep typing the same thing every time I come up here, but it means a lot to me, and it means a lot to these fellow teachers who are sitting here, why they're here today. So please consider it. please listen to us sometimes. We'd really appreciate it.
Thank you. Christine Jane Botting.
Hello, board and members and Dr. Evan Clark. I'm Christine Jean Botting, kindergarten teacher from Valhalla Elementary School. And I would like to bring to your attention a problem with the procedure at the enrollment center. My class had 29 students enrolled on the first day of school. One was a no-show and the 28th was a transfer revoke. This revoke situation created lots of confusion for students and parents. It resulted with a parent confronting me 5 times on campus and calling me 3 times. All in all, it has been a long and arduous situation, making it very agonizing for me to come to school each day. It could have been prevented if the district's enrollment center would enroll the correct amount of students, 27. Please, please give us our 27 students and create a waiting list so we can avoid the unnecessary trauma and heartbreak felt by students, parents, and teachers. I love my students, I love my school, and I'm trying my best to be there for all of 27 5-year-olds. And remember, you can never make a first impression twice. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Linda Ortega.
Along those lines, wait, got the wrong glasses. Okay. Good evening, trustees, Dr. Clark, cabinet, and members of the audience. My name is Linda Ortega. I am the Mount Diablo Education Association's vice president and grievance chair. A lot of things come across my desk. I get a lot of phone calls from our members, and one, as you've heard, is about class size. So just yesterday, as part of my duties, I represent our members and I get an opportunity to visit school sites, which I love to do. Yesterday, I visited a wonderful TK class at Meadow Homes with a Miss Leslie. The reason why I attended was because I wanted to see for myself what a classroom of 24-year-olds, 3-year-olds TKs with one
4-year-old.
4-year-olds with one adult looks like. The teacher was amazing. The kids were active, but she could use that extra adult. The ratio should be 1 adult for every 12 students. As I'm standing there observing, I see some that were wandering. It takes a distraction. She needs an extra body. So I'm here today to bring this up. This is happening across our district. Some of our TK classes do not have those aides. And so I would hope that you will encourage or remind your HR department, the district, to please expedite hiring these aides. Our little ones need the full attention, and 1 adult in 1 classroom with 20 students is not going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Julia Jameson.
Thank you, President Nzewi, trustees, and Dr. Clark. I teach English and ELD at Mount Diablo High School, where we're starting the year with only 3 vacancies. Only 3 vacancies. We also have, at last count, 12 certificated teachers teaching 120%, which, if you do the math, that means they're covering for an additional 2 full vacancies plus. I understand that there's a teacher shortage everywhere. I understand the teachers are hard to come by, especially chemistry teachers. I appreciate that the district is trying to make up for the vacancy of 2 chemistry positions by using Elevate K-12. I am concerned of some questions I've heard about Elevate K-12, namely whether Elevate K-12 classes are A through G eligible, or whether our students are getting a chemistry class that won't make them eligible to attend college. I've heard that the curriculum being used by Elevate K-12 is not NGSS aligned. It is definitely not the curriculum that was adopted by this school district and procured last year. I've heard that grading is based 100% on participation and attendance on Zoom. And that as long as a student is in class on Zoom and is participating in the online activities that happen during that session, they're going to get a passing grade, whether they learn a thing about chemistry. And I've heard that there are absolutely 0 labs. Now, I may be incorrect. I'm not a chemistry teacher, and I'm certainly not in that room, but I would encourage you to ask these questions of your staff to ensure that students at Mount Diablo High School, which I often hear referred to as your flagship high school, are receiving the same quality of education as students at the rest of your comprehensive high schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Noel Cummings.
Good evening. My name is Noelle Cummings. I'm a parent of a student at College Park High School. This morning, I witnessed a road rage incident in front of College Park High School, which culminated in a parent and students yelling at each other threateningly. The parent yelled at the students, expletive you, N-word. I do not know the specific races of those involved in this confrontation. However, I know that the N-word is used too often and casually, dulling its horrific origins of hatred, bondage, and white supremacy for many. For Black people, while sometimes used amongst each other as a term of endearment in different settings, it is a word that can be highly triggering and hurtful. Therefore, I was shocked to witness a parent publicly use this language toward students. It's a glaring symptom of a deeper issue in our community. First and foremost, every student should be able to step onto the school grounds and feel a sense of safety. They should not feel threatened by other students, teachers, administrators, and certainly not by parents for any reason. The actions of that parent using such hateful language serve as a stark reminder of how these toxic behaviors are nurtured within the confines of some households. It is incredibly disheartening that Black students are continually subjected to the insensitive and often derogatory use of this racial slur. Moreover, when a Black student challenges these affronts, an even deeper well of disrespect is often unearthed, and ultimately, due to a lack of cultural competency among teachers and administration, the Black students are often punished when they stand up to the disrespect that they experience. They have little to no support from the adults surrounding them. This insidious cycle perpetuates a culture of division and hurt within our schools. When adults fail to empathize with children's experiences and disregard the corrosive impact of their own actions or inaction, it indicates our collective failure. The time for change is now. Our students deserve nothing less than a safe, nurturing environment where they can thrive without fear of prejudice or attack. I encourage the school board to take decisive action to ensure our schools are sanctuaries of inclusivity and respect.
You can wrap up.
Particularly due to their small numbers in our district, Black students deserve your extra efforts to ensure they feel valued and protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Rabia Tuma.
Thank you for having me. My daughter is a sophomore. We moved to Pleasant Hill this summer in part so she could get a better education. We did not expect that it would come at the cost of near daily racial harassment and threats. It started on the first day of school. Students in her PE class addressed her with the N-word. She asked who they were talking to. To her, they repeated it. She told the teacher, he said he knew his boys and they wouldn't do that. When I picked her up from school that day, she was angry, hurt, and unnerved. These were white kids saying this word to her, a Black girl. I was stunned. I couldn't believe white students were throwing this word around seemingly without care, and adults were ignoring it or excusing the behavior. The harassment has continued. In PE, the kids continued to use the N-word at her, They made movements mimicking a whip and telling her to get back to work. She said, saying she was ghetto and from a gang because we lived in Oakland. She told adults, counselors, teachers, others, it didn't stop, it spread. Now the kids were harassing her in other classes as well. Her math teacher reprimanded her as well as the harassers, not for what was said, but because they were talking in class. When after class, she complained that she was the one who she was defending herself. He said he didn't believe they said those things. He said that until one day he heard them. He apologized to her. But when I went to school for back to school night that night, her name was still written on the board. When I asked why, he said she was too reactive and should ignore the comments. I told him she can be reactive, but if someone is making racial slurs and threats, she has every right and every need to stand up for herself, and he should stand up for her too. This is hate speech. It's threatening and has no place in the campus or in a school classroom.
If you
It
can
has-
begin to wrap up.
It has gotten to the point that my daughter does not want to go to school, though she chose to come here for a better education. I have confronted the faculty, I have confronted the administration,
Thank you.
and they have made changes, but it is not okay. And I ask this district why this behavior is tolerated and tolerance is not taught. This is a community issue.
Thank you. Charlene Leathers.
Good evening, Dr. Clark, trustees, Madam President. My granddaughter attends College Park, where she hears racist remarks on a daily basis. I recently found out that she has experienced teachers who have heard the remarks but have said nothing. This was true when she was a student at Valley View and her 1 year at Hidden Valley. Honestly, this has been true from the moment she came to MDUSD in the 5th grade. It makes me wonder if these teachers agree with the racist statement, since they clearly don't care how deeply they are harming their students by doing absolutely nothing. My granddaughter did not want to start school this year. She is an amazing straight A student. Her year at home during COVID was really good for her because, like Black children across the country, she did not have to be exposed to the racial slurs on the daily basis. It was a relief to her. It was safe. Coming back to school for the 3rd time since quarantine meant another year of hearing this offensive language and another year of adults doing nothing about it. Another year of navigating who to avoid. Another year of wishing she did not have to go to school at College Park. Under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, students have the federally protected right to an education free from discrimination and harassment. Compliance with Title VI is a legal obligation, and all students, including my granddaughter and their families, should expect compliance from their schools. This obligation includes doing things like creating a school climate that is safe for all students and taking immediate steps to repair disturbances in a student's education. The school climate for my granddaughter, her Black classmates, and likely all students who are otherwise in this district. Daily, our Black students are forced to be resilient in a way other students are not. Daily, their right to a public education is disrupted. When will teachers and staff stop the bullying and
start to wrap up.
harassment? When will teachers and staff who've let this go on undoubtedly for generations be held accountable? When will racial slurs be seen and acted upon as the bullying behavior that it is?
Thank
When
you.
will One last thing, if I don't see affirmative actions, affirmative steps to protect our children, I will not hesitate to file a Title VI grievance and encourage other families to do the
Thank
same.
you. Dan Reynolds.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Clark. My name is Dan Reynolds. I am the Executive Director for the Mount Diablo Education Association, the union for certificated employees in the district. I am also a former teacher in the district for 15 years. I was an MD USD grad. I'm also the parent of 2 current MD USD students. As some of the other educators who have spoken at public comment tonight have said, it is important for the district to be able to attract a qualified educator for every position in our district. I view it as unacceptable that we are this far into the school year still with this many vacancies. I think it's unacceptable in a number of ways. The parent in me is upset that my daughter doesn't yet have a science teacher in her classroom. The former teacher in me is upset and views it as not yet where we need to be as a district because I know what it is like to be a staff member in those schools. Thinking all the way back to myself as a student in this district when we didn't have the French teacher that we needed, right? I remember what it was like to be a student in this district. It is different now, though, than when it was when I didn't have a French teacher in 1995, because back then it was maybe 5 or 6 vacancies, whereas now there are dozens. Our students deserve the best. And in order to get the best, we need to attract and retain educators. We can do that with improved salary, benefits, working conditions, prep time, lower class sizes, more enrichment programs, librarians, and these things are necessary and the board can afford them. To shift gears and close out my time, I would also like to ensure that the board knows that last year, site administrators violated the educator's contract by forcing dozens of them to do yard duty, even though the contract says that those specific educators do not have to. Rather than follow the contract, the district fought us at every turn. We took that grievance all the way to arbitration. 2 weeks ago, the arbitrator published their binding ruling, upholding what we have been saying for more than a year. The district must respect the contract. We ask that you immediately push every site
You're
administrator
wrapping up. I
to
know.
fully respect our contract and immediately stop forcing impacted educators to do this duty in violation of the contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Beckner.
Hi, my name is Catherine Beckner. I graduated from Ignacio Valley High School in 1993, and I currently have a daughter in the dual immersion program who spoke in Spanish. She came from a monolingual home. Because of the dual immersion program, I hope she continues to learn and becomes bilingual. I also worked for the Mount Diablo School District for 14 years. I see some of my Pleasant Hill Middle friends. And unfortunately, I left for better pay, longer commute. I'm now in Pleasanton Unified. I left because of better working conditions and higher pay. And it broke my heart because I live in Pleasant Hill. I could ride my bike to work, but I had to do it for my family. So I encourage the board to do whatever you need to do to retain teachers. San Ramon takes all years of credit. There are signing bonuses. Pleasanton was looking for a 5th grade dual immersion teacher. I know they're hard to come by because it's a lot of work. All teaching is a lot of work, but they offered a $5,000 signing bonus to attract employees. We need to do better. The kids deserve the best. All students deserve the best. I started my career at Mount Diablo High School. Mount Diablo High School, Foothill Middle School, all students deserve the best. And I want a reason to come back to Mount Diablo Unified School District. Thank you.
Thank you. Lita Toley. Lita. Okay, thank you.
I come before you. My name is Lita Tully.
Can you
I'm short. I'm
tilt
talking
the microphone? Thank you.
My name is Lita Tully. I'm fifth grade now, bilingual teacher at Meadow Homes Elementary School. I came to the district with a master's degree in education and many years of experience in community education and public education and PR. I came to this district because I wanted to make a difference for the children of my community. Like them, I too am an immigrant. Like them, I learned English as a second language. Like them, I graduated from high school, went away to a private university where I got my undergraduate, and then decided to come back at midlife. I call myself a new old teacher of sorts. The second week of school this year, I've been at Meadow Homes now for 13 years. I've been with the district for 15 years. I've served on many committees at the district level because I wanted you to know that I care what you're doing behind the scenes. I have served on more committees than you can imagine, and I've also piloted curriculum. The second week of school this year, I was informed that my class would be collapsed. That it would be collapsed because there were not enough students. When we say not enough students, we're not talking about 6 or 7 or even 10. I had 22 children. I have colleagues in Salinas Valley, in Pajaro Unified School District, in Sacramento, and in Pittsburgh now, who have 21 students. That is the number that's appropriate for a Title I school with children who are immigrant, who 90% are learning English as a second language. 80% of them are immigrant children from Central and Mexico, Central American. And I'm very nervous with you because really you're very scary to me because I feel that you're hurting my students. I don't know if you're doing it deliberately. I don't know if you understand what's happening. I came to education to make a change and I have failed. They
If you
split
can
up my
begin to
kids.
wrap up.
Thank you. And I had to split them up because I wasn't even helped to split them up. They are now packed. Who came up with that idea, Dr. Clark? To pack children.
You can wrap up. Thank you. I'm sorry.
You're hurting my students. You have hurt them, whether you did it deliberately or not.
Thank you. These last two have come in since just now, so I'm going to bring it down to 90 seconds. Oh, there's only one more. Okay, I'll give you like a minute 45. I am so Caitlin or good. Okay, Caitlin Von Berg.
I'm Katalin Momberg. I'm a mom of a Spanish immersion
I'm
student.
sorry for that.
Who is now at Foothill Middle School. I understand that there is an overarching bigger problem at the district level with regards to compensation of teachers or teacher shortages in general. That is probably a complex issue that needs to be resolved for the long term. I think others spoke about that. Meanwhile, I ask this board to please help assist resolving this issue at Foothill Middle School at the local level urgently. Many of these students don't have a backup plan. Many of these parents don't speak Spanish at home. we all invested 6 years to get to this level. And you've heard how beautifully they speak and develop this bilingual skills. I think based on just some initial discussion with the principal, there's a lot that can be done locally with regards to recruitment to help that process to ensure that we get qualified candidates and we retain those candidates throughout the interview process. So please figure out a short-term action plan and help us locally to resolve this matter immediately. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 9.1, district organizations at regular board meetings. A single spokesperson of each recognized district organization may make a brief presentation. Items are limited to those which are informational. Anita Johnson, sorry.
Good evening. My name is Anita Johnson. My pronouns are she and her. I am the president of the Mount Diablo Education Association, which represents the educators in this district. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the board and management for the agreement that we reached today regarding the increase in the benefits rates. The Kaiser rates this year are increasing more than 11%. That is very, very scary to a lot of people. And with the agreement today, the district will assume the majority of that increase. Thank you. As a result, the split will change from what it was this year, which is roughly 80.5 to 19.5, to 81.5 to 18.5% paid by the employees. So thank you. We will be putting this agreement to a vote of our members, and I encourage all of our members to vote yes to ratify. This agreement will help the district attract and retain educators. More needs to be done. Other tools that will help solve the vacancy problem are higher salaries, additional support on benefits, more prep time, lower class sizes. Also, I encourage you to encourage management to improve and change their practices and styles to ensure that educators feel supported and treated with respect. Thank you.
Thank you. That was all for district organizations. All right, 10.0, recognitions and resolutions. 10.1, review and potential approval of resolution 2324-9, proclaiming September 15th, 2023 to October 15th, 2023 as Hispanic Heritage Month. Now's a good time to quietly leave if you're leaving, but we really have exciting meetings and you should stay and learn. They're not that exciting, I know, but they're very interesting because it's all important. Yeah. All right, Dr. Clark.
Thank you, Madam President. We have tonight before us Resolution 23/24-9, Hispanic Heritage Month, which is going to run from September 15th, 2023 to October 15th, 2023. Whereas the month of September 15th to October 15th was designated as Hispanic Heritage Month by the United States Congress in 1988. And whereas the huge and significant impact of Hispanic and Latino cultures and their centuries-old traditions are manifested in achievements, customs, and laws of this state and nation. And whereas Hispanic Americans may also trace their roots to the indigenous peoples of the Americas. And now therefore be it resolved that the Mount Diablo Unified School District Governing Board hereby recognizes, honors, and celebrates the many contributions, heritage, and history of Hispanics, Latinos, Latinas, and Latinx people during our annual commemoration and proclamation of Hispanic Heritage Month, and encourages all schools and classrooms to commemorate this occasion with appropriate instructional materials And be it further resolved that this executed resolution be distributed to all schools within the Mount Diablo Unified School District. Madam President, this resolution is now in the hands of the board.
Any discussion or comments? Go ahead.
I'm just really glad that it's going to be this month because there's going to be more time to discuss all the culture and all the practices and like celebrations and more chances to learn about all of these for people who don't know. And I can't wait to have so many parties.
Would you like to make a motion? You can read the under the recommendation.
I move to approve resolution 23/24/9 proclaiming September 15th, 2023 through October 15th, 2023 as Hispanic Heritage Month.
I'll second that. Well done.
Yeah, I'm like, you got another first out of the way. I just want to acknowledge it's between this resolution and then policy we're voting on later around Indigenous, or I don't remember the title. It doesn't use the word Indigenous, but that it's really important because this is such a significant part of our community, our students, that I hope that schools do as is resolved, that we actually teach about all the different cultures. But I think what's really amazing about our district is, as Lou is from Meadow Homes, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, as you meant Lita, Miss Tolley. As you mentioned, Central America, like we have so many families from Central America and from Mexico that it's not like people will make the assumption that everyone here is Mexican or Mexican American. And that as when we recognize Asian American, Asian Pacific Islander Month, that it is like, there's a gazillion very distinct cultures to recognize and honor. And we have a community who can do that. And as you mentioned, Trustee Barrios, all the parties and things, I feel like we should lean heavily into our communities and into our families to share with their schools those best parts of their culture that we can all learn from. So Trustee Barrios, what is your vote?
Yes.
Everybody's probably voted already. Thank you. That passes unanimously. 10.2, review and potential approval of resolution 2324-10, adopting the district's 2023-24 appropriations limit calculation, or the GAN limit.
Yeah, and I'm not going to read this resolution, but this is an annual resolution that we bring forward around the GAN limit. So we're asking for approval from the board, or consideration of approval.
Madam President, I'll move that the board approve resolution 23/24 -10, adopting the 2022 to 23 appropriation limit calculation GAN limit.
I'll second that.
Trustee Barrios.
Yes.
And that passes unanimously. 10.3, review and potential approval of resolution 2324-11, designating certain general funds as committed fund balance.
Right.
Yes, go do that.
Yeah, you're
Go ahead.
good.
And then record it on the
I'll
card.
put in a card after.
Read this first.
Yeah, we have to do this.
Then I'll
I'm
do
sorry.
it.
That's why I'm saying do it, so then we can present it and then you can. Got it.
So this is resolution 23/24-11, designating certain general funds as committed fund balance. I won't read it all, but it's essentially the governing board of the Mount Diablo Unified School District, under policy 3100 regarding business and non-instructional operation, provides for classification of fund balances and general fund in compliance with governmental accounting standards board, GASB. So now therefore be resolved that the Mount Diablo Unified School District Board of Education hereby commits to utilizing portions of its general fund ending balance as indicated by the committed fund classification in its financial statements for the following purposes: textbook adoptions, deferred maintenance, LCAP supplemental carryover, technology, and legal settlements, and that is totaling $49,576,294. I now leave this in the hands of the board, and I know we have a comment.
Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you all for that. This resolution seeks to commit $49 million. Included in it is $10 million for deferred maintenance. Last year, y'all set aside $5 million for deferred maintenance. Still haven't seen that deferred maintenance was done and that the $5 million was spent. So I would question, is there a need to up it to 10 million if you didn't spend the 5 from last year? Further, in the previous year, it was 0. There are $4.5 million in this line for legal settlements. That seems like a lot. I'm curious to know what the district is doing that it needs to pay out $4.5 million in legal settlements. Also, there is more than $10 million of LCAP supplemental carryover that you are saying in this resolution you are committing to spend. It would be interesting to know why you had that much money left over as carryover and how you're saying you're committing to spend it, but yet there's no real plan on how you're going to spend it. And so as the board takes a vote on how it wants to commit the spending of close to $50 million, I would encourage you to consider, what is this money? Is it money that you really need to spend, or are there other more appropriate uses you can spend it to serve the needs of our students? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments?
I move to approve Resolution 23-24-11, designating certain general funds as committed fund balance after having given it a lot of thought.
Second.
Trustee Barrios.
Yes.
And that passes. 11.0 board member reports. Volunteers. Who would like to go first?
I'll go.
Okay, thank you.
After our last meeting, I went to the fentanyl presentation that was at Concord High School, which was very well attended and very informative. I went to Mount Diablo High School for their back to school night, which again was very well attended. It was nice to see so many parents come out. The best part of it was I got to see the parent. It made me feel old, but the parent of a senior who I was the assistant in her second grade classroom at Bel Air School. So that was fun. I also went and visited him one day at lunch, and it was very calm and kids were having a good time and all actively engaged. I went to the CSBA meeting, which I'm sure there'll be another board member reporting on, so I'll pass with that. The joint meeting, which someone else might report on as well, and the Black Families Night, which I will just say I was very, very touched and I'm inspired by, and I'm sure our president will be talking more about it. So that's all I will say.
Thank you. Trustee McFerrin. I'm just gonna go down the road.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My report tonight is about 2 of the meetings that I attended over the last couple of weeks. So on Thursday, August 31st, I joined the secondary supplemental book list meeting, which was held over Google Meet after school. And the discussion centered around a review of the list of the core text, the categories, and the grade levels for some of the titles of the list. I was just really pleased to see kind of who the participants were in the group. They're all people that I know kind of directly or indirectly to be kind of incredible leaders on our campuses. And we're so lucky to have such a knowledgeable group looking so carefully at these decisions and at the helm of this project. And then last Tuesday, September 5th, I joined the CAC meeting, which was here in the boardroom. The meetings are now completely in person, and we had a smaller group in attendance. But there were also a couple of new faces, so it's exciting to know that the word gets out about the CAC and this opportunity for parents of students receiving special education services to join the group. And then I really appreciated that speaker. It was Brian Casson was, and he discussed how to be an effective communicator during the IEP process, which I think is really beneficial to parents and any party attending an IEP or a 504 meeting. And as a general education teacher who often goes to these meetings, I thought his advice was, I thought he provided some excellent advice, and I appreciated him sharing it with parents. And that's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you, Trustee Mayo.
Yes, thank you. I attended the CAC meeting as well, and what I'd like to share is that on September 26th, there will be the You Make a Difference Award celebration at Concord High School. I plan on being there at 6 p.m., but maybe it starts a little later. But if you arrive early, there's lots of cookies and snacks to enjoy. And it's a wonderful celebration, recognizing individuals who make a difference in the lives of our students. The CCC, which is the Contra Costa County School Boards Association meeting, we welcomed comments from Superintendent Lynn Mackey about the services that are provided by the county Department of Education. And then also we heard from two speakers from CSBA regarding the legislation that is currently just been chaptered or is sitting on the governor's desk for signature, and the efforts that led to the success of many of these bills. I wanted to say one more thing about the CAC meeting. The How to Speak and Be Heard PowerPoint will be posted on the CAC webpage of the Mount Diablo School District. So I think it's worth individuals' times to look at it, even if you don't have a special needs child, because there was a wealth of information that was made available in that PowerPoint. And then I want to give a shout out to all of our PFCs and PTAs that have worked very hard to welcome parents and faculty members back to school this year. They've provided breakfast, they've provided lunches, they've gone out of their way to provide different things in staff lounges. They've also welcomed or held special events for new parents to the schools, especially our kindergarten and TK parents. The welcome to meet the principals at the school site, and then also meet parents before and after school. This is a huge undertaking by our volunteer parents, and I think sometimes it's taken for granted, and we just all need to say thank you. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Kand.
Nice. Thank you. I'll be short today as well. I just had a few reflections from our joint meeting last week with Concord City Council. I was really happy to hear about the Concord City transportation improvements, and would encourage people to take a look at that to be able to see what's happening soon or throughout this year in their neighborhood. And I appreciate that families came forward to tell us about places where they had either safety issues or need for bus transportation. And I want to encourage those families to keep giving that input. The other places that that input can be given is County Connection. There's also a county-wide transportation plan that is looking for input. There's a place where you can click on community input. And I think we all continue to encourage the city to budget for crossing guards like other cities in our school district already do. I'm also very excited about the tobacco ordinance that the Concord City as passed a while back, but it doesn't start until mid-October. So starting in mid-October, just want the public to remember that the tobacco ordinance goes into effect, preventing the sale of flavored tobacco and tobacco in below certain price ranges that are usually geared towards youth. And if you see that happening, if there's something you're concerned about, you can report it in the Concord Connect app. And the city staff will follow up on it. I was really happy to see them respond to even a question I had that night about a particular signage that was happening over near YV High. So they're very responsive, which is great. And then lastly, I'm just really excited for the upcoming event, the Yours Humanly Break a Sweat for Education run that's coming up on September 30th. And it benefits our the Yours Humanly nonprofit organization and also the Mount Diablo Education Foundation, which both do a lot of donating to our schools. So hope to see you there, either running, walking, or cheering everybody on. There's going to be the Northgate Madrigals are going to sing. The YVU cheer team is going to be there cheering. Dr. Clark is going to be speaking. So it's going to be, I think there's balloons and face painting as well. So lots of fun stuff. Hope to see you out there on Saturday, September 30th. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Barrios. Nothing. How's school going?
Pretty good. I just want to talk about the IB program at YV. It's it's very good. We're gonna have a potluck on Wednesday, and I suggest people start joining the IB because I'm pretty sure there's a new club at school where a student started it. One of my friends started it. It's I think it's having 3 or more IB classes, and they're gonna try to ask for field trips to go on, probably educational, to help us on our IB journey, as well as field trips on careers some of us all want to be in.
Yes, the back to school what was it? What was it? Extravaganza. That's the word I was trying to get into my head. The Black Family Extravaganza was amazing. And what it was a really fabulous demonstration of community building, especially for Black families as we are spread across the district, depending on what school community you're in, often isolated. And yeah, never having few opportunities for togetherness in supporting ourselves just as a community and supporting our Black students. So that was really inspiring. But the public comment we heard this evening is really disturbing and not unique at all. As for the last, in 2020, this is 23, 24, 22, 23, 2021, 22, I believe, when Dr. Clark hosted listening sessions with families of Black students, we heard these same stories from across the district. And in that moment, I felt like for myself and for other families, you thought that your experience was isolated, and you learned quickly that it is not, that this runs deep, deep and long in the history of our district. And it's shameful and unfair that adults do nothing about it. And that was a tipping point that made me run for this seat, because I learned from my how old are you in the 5th grade? 11-year-old daughter, that she had been called the N-word at school. And that was the first time she'd heard that. And that was the year we moved here. And that I found out from her, not from an adult at school, who she left class. She grabbed a friend's hand and left class because the teacher did nothing, and went to the office and reported it to a vice principal who did nothing in contacting me or anything, that I had to roll up to school the next day to say, hey, what's going on here? I do believe that that was 5 years ago, that in these years, our district is showing improvement and change, and I know that improvement and change, especially because a lot of this is like personal work, is slow. But these are our children who are being harmed on the daily, that the adults in the room are not creating that bully-free zone against racial bullying. And I do you think what's missing is accountability for the adults? Because we can do something as adults, and that inaction is putting our children in harm's way. So as I listen to these incidents, as I've experienced, because I'm a parent at that same school, to these incidents, as I've thought about it, I really want to put forth policy. I'm going to think on it of how our adults are held accountable and what are the steps we take when we know this happens, but a teacher or an office, someone who works in the office, or a principal, or the whole adult community of our district, if they know this happened but react in the way of the examples that we heard, that something has to happen. There have to be steps to take to hold them accountable. So that's all I have. Dr. Clark, what's your report? That wasn't a top 3 to talk about this because you have a planned report, but I am done. And thank you, colleagues.
Thank you very much, trustees, for your updates. I appreciate the connectedness that you all have with our community and with our schools, and really supporting efforts that we all are taking to support our students. So again, I just, as we hear about some of the challenges and successes within our district, I always want to tie everything back to our LCAP goals. And again, when we think about our mission and vision, this is really what our mission and vision is at this point. As a district, as always, we have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of challenges in society and in our communities, and they really do play themselves out in our school sites each and every day. So we really have to be skilled in how we address things. And and maybe a thing in the past was that maybe we don't take things head on, and boys will be boys or kids will be kids and whatnot. But under my leadership, I really have taken every step, each and every day to try to combat that and to hold everyone accountable. I definitely hold my principals accountable, and the administrators accountable, and try to set a positive expectation of what is expected in our district. We have the greatest gift, and that's the opportunity to work with the 29,000 students within this district, and it's a gift, and it should not be taken lightly. So again, we can look at these goals at really what we value and what we are striving for. And so I'm not going to go over each of the goals, but I just again want to always call our attention to them, because if you truly read them and then watch the actions that we are doing, you will see how our actions truly are aligned with those goals. We're not there yet on all the areas, but the goals are for us to be unified in shooting for those goals. And again, looking at our triangle here with that educational equity at the base, and the learning acceleration on the side, and also that social emotional learning. This is really this is what we stand for within Mount Diablo. Just a real quick update: 24 days of school, our enrollment is flat. So so we're still right around 29,000 students, which is good. We had, unfortunately, through just lots of blood, sweat, and tears, I have to give a hats off to everyone at the enrollment department, to our principals, to our office managers, to our directors, specifically, Margie Calbeck, Aaron DeMartini, Chris Clausen, Samantha Allen, just on working on trying to make sure that that every class has a qualified teacher in it, and that we're meeting our contractual limits within our classes. So unfortunately, we did have to overflow about 40 to 45 TK and kindergarten students, which is never easy. There's not one of those numbers there where they got that letter or got that call or that email and said, "Oh yeah, this is great. Let's do this." So, but it is a reality in public schools, and this does happen. And it's not an exact science of who's going to walk through our doors. And we are a public school, and we are going to take everybody, and we're going to work really hard to put people in places that they are designated to go or really where they can, have their needs met. And so our intention is to work with our public and work with our community to make sure that we're meeting everybody's needs. That's our intention. Currently, right now, we have 2 elementary classroom teacher vacancies. That's district-wide and at the elementary ranks. And at the secondary rank, and the teacher who spoke from Mount Diablo High School is absolutely correct. In secondary, we can have teachers do a 1.2, so they can take an extra section. And so that has really helped us. But even with that, we still have right around 14 secondary classroom teacher vacancies throughout the district. And due to an early retirement, we still have 1 elementary principal vacancy, and we're interviewing. We've got some strong candidates, and we'll be interviewing them either this week or next week. So that's sort of just a quick update of the first 24 days of school, and things that I know it may not touch many of the 29,000 students that we have in the district, but everyone who is impacted by this list here feels that impact. And I want to acknowledge that and just know that it's not something that we plan for, we want to happen. And we are, folks fail to mention that we are in a national teaching shortage. This is not just in Mount Diablo District. We aren't doing this on purpose and things like that. And really our heart breaks for each and every one of these vacancies. And we're going to continue to work hard. And I've shared in our last meeting all the efforts that our Human Resources Department is doing to rectify this. So if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, you see the symbol of Concord High School. So this is something that I really just wanted to share so that folks can see just how our district has changed and what tremendous opportunities we have in our district. So this was a survey that they put out at Concord High School to all their students during the first week of school. And so from 75% of the people who took the poll said that they 75% spoke a different language besides English, and 77% reported the family at home spoke another language. And so if you look at all those different languages that are present at Concord High School, and that's just Concord High School is kind of in the center of our district, so that's why I think this is just so neat to see how many different languages are taught, and how many of these of these students are just fortunate to have these languages that either they speak or their parents speak or their family speak, and then also to be able to come into our schools. But it also shows that we have to work just that much harder to make sure that we are communicating with with all students and all families appropriately. And then this next slide, again from Concord High School, and some people, the same survey, some people listed single cultural backgrounds, while some people listing a combination of the following. In my office, I read this out loud to myself. I'm going to spare you guys, but these are, this is just, how wonderful is this, that this is the reflection of our schools. As I go around and visit the schools, I can just see different faces and just seeing students who have roots from around the world. And that truly is incredible that we have this opportunity. But it also, in our goals, it talks about a culturally relevant experience that we're going to provide these students. And I think, hearing some of the comments earlier about some of the ills that some of our families deal with, we did at the beginning of the year, as one of our requirements, we did require every employee to take a implicit bias and culturally relevant 18-minute training. I would think that this would be something that would be embraced and that folks would want to do this. And that is my hope. And that is my expectation, that everyone just takes that, just so that we're all coming from a common place. It's not the end to end all, and it's not it's not a graduate course or anything by any means, but it is something that gives us all a common language and a common understanding, so we can look ourselves in the mirror, and you can look at a Concord High School and say, you know what, Concord High School is not what it was back when I graduated in 1986, or maybe back in 1995. This is our reality in 2023. And we, not them, not our students, we have to adjust to meet their needs. And so, so this really just puts it into perspective. And I was just quite pleased that that the principal over there took this activity and did it with their students. Again, I just love this picture. I know I shared this before, but I'm just going to keep popping it up. But I mean, you know, how can, you know, when we talk about the privilege and honor that we have to, you know, to work with our students, this is, I mean, this is just pictures worth 1,000 words. So one of the things that I've worked really hard on in order to support all of our learners is to really streamline our efforts. I don't want to have, you know, I don't want to make things so complicated that folks do not understand fully where we are headed. And these are three major initiatives that we have going on in our district right now. So first of all, we've all heard of CCEE, the California Collaborative for Educational Excellence. And if you read their tagline, the CCE transforms public education. So every student is inspired and prepared to thrive as their best self in the world. Again, that's a goal that organization puts forward with. And we are working with CCEE because our students have not progressed at the rate that they should, and that is acceptable for the state. So the state has said, Mount Diablo, we are sending you CCEE, and they are going to help you facilitate that. So in through those conversations and with that facilitation, we are working with TNTP, the new teacher project. And so they are facilitating much of our professional development. And that is focused on math, and it's focused on early literacy. I just for a quick example, last Thursday, we had a training session with CCEE. TNTP was in the room, and we had district office administrators, we had principals, we had teachers, all there to look at our data and to really form that professional learning community around these tenets. And then woven through all of that is our work that we've been doing with equity. And again, the Mount Diablo, we've been doing equity work for, you know, the last decade. And I know under Felicia Stuckey-Smith's leadership, Jorge Malgoza, who's in the room, you know, this has been an ongoing effort within our district. We are contracting with Dr. Shelley Jones-Holt. She's a nationally renowned educator, ex-superintendent, ex-educator, you know, just very passionate about what she's doing. And we have woven the equity work, the work from TNTP, and the guidance that we're getting from CCEE so that we're all on the same page and heading in the same direction. And again, change is hard. And there are some folks who, you know, this is difficult. This is a new way to look at things. But I think if I go back to that slide that shows all the different students who we serve, and when we look at the challenges within our communities and within society as a whole, we need to do something different to really meet the needs of each and every one of our students. And it's not easy work. Another thing we did was yesterday, I had the opportunity to go to one of our trainings, and we had well over 100 teachers and administrators together spending the whole day in a professional learning community, training the trainers. So we had teacher leaders who were at their sites, and they're going to go back and they are going to help facilitate professional development in the area of mathematics. And so this was our elementary and middle school teams. And again, just hats off to our curriculum team who really put this together. And they're all in one room, all very happy and very engaged, were administrators and teachers working with the facilitator on this common goal around mathematics. And then today we had teams of folks out doing classroom walkthroughs again, following up on that professional development that they had just received. And we got a last minute email that we had to change one of the trips because one of the teachers, they teach math at a different time, and so they wanted to make sure that they can get into the math class. But I bring that up just to show you the coordination and the work that is taking place, arm in arm with our staffs to better ourselves, to not have teachers have to learn 50 different things. We want to really streamline things. We want to integrate our efforts, all with the hopes of improving our student experiences. So just a lot of great work that's taking place throughout the district as we're on our just the first month of school, and it's great being able to bring people back together. And what we have here, we have our calendars, we have our standards, and we have our assessments. So again, very transparent. It's available. Teachers have access to this. All employees have access to this. Our administrators, great deal of work has been put in here. But again, we have to be able to monitor progress along the way. We have to set goals and see where our students are measuring up to the standards that they're expected to learn. Our teachers need to know where they need to, whether or not they're being effective in their instruction. And hopefully, as we've developed these PLC groups, they can get support from colleagues and from one another on making sure that that they're aligned. And again, just kudos to the teams that has put a lot of work, a lot of energy into this work. But it's all here, so you don't have to go fishing for it. You don't have to create it on your own. It's all here. I also wanted to share, last week we had there was a meeting down at Willow Creek. We had every counselor in the district along with their administrator, and we had it's being facilitated by Hatching Results. And again, these are the objectives that came from this particular training. By the end of our time together today, we will be able to, number one, believe that school counselors use cutting-edge frameworks to improve efficiency and effectiveness. So our counselors are so key, and I know that this board has put a tremendous investment into our students by providing counselors. Now, of course, we could always talk about the size of their caseloads. We can talk about whether they're there 1 day a week, 5 days a week, 2 days a week. We can get into all that minutia, but the point is that we've invested in counselors, and now it's up to us to make sure that our counselors have clear direction on what it is that we need them to do each and every day working with our students. And from these trainings, we all really got to sit and learn together that the counseling profession over the last 100 years has been very splintered on what exactly it is that counselors are meant to do. And so this training is meant to, again, get us all going in the same direction so we can really utilize our resources and get our students the assistance that they need. Just real quick, 2 more bullets. Leverage a common belief system about the role of the school counseling program to advocate for programmatic systems change. And then assess our programs and practice through the lens of guidance versus school counseling. Now, I'm not going to call anyone on age, but like when I went to school, it was the guidance counselors, but now they're school counselors, and we're really trying to transform from that guidance counselor model to the school counselor model through and identify school counseling and identify areas of strength and thoughtfulness for improvement. And again, this just aligns with the competencies over there identified by 7 and B-PF2. School counseling programs promote and enhance student academic, career, and social emotional outcomes. Like we're just putting it out there that's what our expectation is, and demonstrate an understanding of educational systems, legal issues, policies, research, and trends in education. So I was very excited to see this taking place, to participate, spend some time there. Hats off to the team that put this together. And this isn't just a 1-day training. This was a 2-day training, and they will be coming back into the district working with us this year and next on these goals. So very, very excited about this. I also, just in ways that we support our students, families, and communities, we're having another Fentanyl Awareness Night. Just to review, we had a night at Ignacio Valley High School. We had a night at Concord High School, and now we're going to Meadow Homes Elementary. And again, hats off to Linda Pete for really facilitating this and leading these efforts. But the fentanyl awareness is something that every parent, every community member really needs to understand and to know the dangers that are out there. And you can get the Narcan if you attend one of these sessions. So for the young people, you got to be 18 or older to get the free Narcan, but we are giving it out. And then this week also, last week, this week, and I believe a little bit of next week, we are continuing to do safety training. So right now we're focusing on our emergency operations centers. So every school is meeting with an administrator and their crisis team, their emergency team, and that could be a mix of teachers, classified staff, certificated staff, and their administrators, and they're working on that emergency operations center, that working out those command centers at a school site. Rockeye has already completed their security and safety threat assessments at our schools with cameras and with entrances and things of that nature, and are sharing that with us. So again, as I share the updates and sticking on the topic of safety, I know I shared this last time, but we're actually now it's in motion. Students are being trained. I'm getting reports back that some of the videos are a tad bit heavy on students, but this is real life, and so this training is critical for our students, so that if they see something, if they are aware of something, if they hear something, that they now have an avenue to be able to report that, so that we can get the necessary help out there. So all this that I shared all ties back to those 4 LCAP goals that we have. The Black Family Extravaganza is part of that. Our Teresa Brandt wrote a wonderful story on our deaf program for our deaf students within the district. I myself personally visited the preschool program that we have within our district and was able to interact with some of our little tiny deaf students, some of our nonverbal autistic students, and it's amazing what they have over there on the Gregory Gardens campus. And again, we're going to have the celebration of success with our students with IEPs, and recognizing the heroic adults who work with those students and give them all the love and care and high expectations that they deserve. But there's so much going on in the district. We had students come here earlier tonight who shared their experience in a dual immersion program, and really being able to become fluent in another language other than their own. And yeah, we're struggling finding a teacher, but we have Holbrook. We have a whole school that's dedicated to this. We have a whole middle school that has an IB program and that has languages there that they can learn. We have a high school that has an IB program that focuses on world language and things of that nature. So again, there's oftentimes it's just a sign of the times in our society that we can focus on the challenges. But as the leader of this district and as the one who takes the responsibility, and I do take responsibility for all that goes wrong in this district, we have a lot to celebrate. And yeah, we have some challenges, and those rest on my shoulders, and I take full responsibility for that. But the folks who we have out there who are implementing these programs and really seeing these programs through, there's a lot of families out there that are benefiting, and a lot of students who are progressing through our system. So with that concludes my report. Sorry, I was a little lengthy, but still the first month of school, so lots to share. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? You got any questions, Trustee Barrios? No? All right, good. Trustee Mayo, you good? All right, great.
Thank you. Can 13 sorry. 13.1, items listed under consent agenda are considered routine and will be approved or adopted by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. However, any item may be removed from the consent agenda upon the request of any member of the board and acted upon separately. Are there any items to remove?
I will make a motion to accept it as presented.
Second that motion?
Trustee Barrios.
Yes.
And those items pass. So 16, skipping ahead to 16, business and action items. Here's the juicy part everyone is missing because they left. 16.1, review and potential approval of certification of the district's 22-23 unaudited actuals financial reports. Welcome.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Clark. I'm here to present the unaudited actuals. I have a few slides I'll be going through to talk about how we ended for fiscal year 22-23. So unaudited actuals are required by the State Superintendent of Public Instruction. As I said, it reflects the results of operations for the year end and the financial condition of the district as of June 30th, 2023. It establishes the actual beginning fund balance for the 23-24 fiscal year. Our adopted budget reflected estimated balances because we are working on that at the end of May. So we're trying to project what our expenditures and revenues would be. But now we have the beginning balances, and then they will be verified by external auditors, and our audit report is due in December 15th. And normally we present the audit report in January of 2024. So moving forward, this slide shows the table of the general fund revenues for the unrestricted side for general fund revenues. It's roughly 325 million. For restricted, it's 165.6 million. For a combined total for our general fund of $489.5 million. And then this is just a graphical percentages of the unrestricted and the restricted revenues. And as you can see, the majority of unrestricted revenues come from LCFF, or local control funding formula. And then for restricted, most of our funds are coming from state funding sources. And I have a slide further along, but primarily that's due to 2 block grants that we received in 22-23, which is the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Block Grant, and then the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant. And then moving through to expenditures, on the unrestricted side, we expensed $253 million. On the restricted side of the budget, we came out at 179.5 million for a total of $432.5 million. And then here is the pie graph, basically outlining the different percentages of the unrestricted expenses and then restricted expenses. And so you can see a majority of our unrestricted budget is spent on salaries and benefits. And then about 63% of our restricted budget is salaries and benefits. But as you can see, there's a pretty high percentage for restricted expenditures related to contracted services of about 27%, but a lot of that is due to the one-time funds that districts received, and primarily ESSER funding. And then moving on to our contributions and transfer outs. These 2 tables reflect first our contributions to our special education program, our routine restricted maintenance account, our athletics programs, and then we have some small contributions going to two federal programs, which one is our junior ROTC and our WIOA program. So for the year end, our contributions from unrestricted general fund to restricted programs was about 68 million, which was about 2.2 million less than what we projected back in May. And then for our transfers out, we do have the $5 million going to our deferred maintenance fund. And then we have a small meal reimbursement of about $41,000. And basically that's going to our cafeteria fund. And that's to support second meals. And that's the contribution we're making from the general fund to the cafeteria fund. And then this slide highlights the key differences from estimated actuals on the unrestricted side of the budget. So overall revenues were 1.1 million higher, and that was due to increased state and local revenues of 1.9 million, and that was offset by a decreased local control funding formula revenue of about 0.8 million. Total salaries and benefits were 1.5 million lower than what was projected. And this is primarily due to one-time savings in benefits. So as you have vacancies throughout the year, you should be adjusting for those salaries, but as well, you should be adjusting for benefits. And so we'll get tighter on that as we go through first interim and second interim in the current fiscal year. But that is primarily the difference in salaries and benefits. Books and supplies were 7.9 million lower than what was projected with estimated actuals, but a good chunk of that was 6.3 million for our textbook adoption, and that will be carried over into the 23-24 year because we didn't receive the full order before June 30th. But that is primarily why we have such a large variance. Contracted services and other operating expenses came in at 3.8 million, and that was due to lower costs for transportation services and our property and liability claims. And then capital outlay was roughly about 900,000 lower, and that was due to not fully spending the set aside budget for technology needs. And those funds will be carried over as well as we move through the 23-24 year. Now moving on to restricted resources, overall revenues were 32.5 million lower, and that's primarily due to not fully spending out our federal ESSER and title program funds, which is roughly about 26.7 million, and our state restricted funds of about 7 million. And then this was increased by our local revenues of 1.2 million. And just as a reminder, when it comes to federal revenues, we budget as we were going to spend out those budgets. And so most, if not all, federal revenues are earned. So you earn those revenues as you spend down or you incur the expense. So basically, we're not losing the budget. It's just that we didn't recognize fully spending out. And again, primarily ESSER funds and title funds. Total salaries and benefits were about 5 million lower than projected, but that was due to not spending out budgets related to our expanded learning opportunity program, our title and ESSER programs. Books and supplies were about 39 million lower than projected. And again, this is related to our ELOT program, title programs, ESSER, and then educator effectiveness block grant, as well as our special ed programs. Contracted services and other operating expenses came in lower at about 700,000. And then finally, capital outlay expenses were 8.2 million lower. And again, this is due to not spending down the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 budgets that were built in the 22-23 year. So with all of that, overall, the unrestricted ending fund balance increased by 6.5 million. And again, that's primarily due to not spending out all of those budgets. And then on the restricted side, our fund balance increased by 46.3 million. And again, this is related to those new block grants that we received in the 22-23 fiscal year. And as you can see, I have 16.7 million for the arts, music, and instructional materials. And then for the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, that is 25.6 million. And then we did receive a $3 million grant that's related to the kitchen infrastructure and training. So those funds will be utilized throughout the next couple of years. But that's why the restricted fund balance went up by that amount. And then another note, all other funds have a positive ending fund balance as of June 30th, 23. And those other funds are the Adult Ed Fund, the Cafeteria Fund, and then our capital facility funds. All of them ended with a positive fund balance. And so as we move through, we finished up year-end closing, so we'll work on posting carryover in the 23-24 year, but just things to still think about. Still looking at declining enrollment and our student attendance rates, because those drive our local control funding formula. As Dr. Clark said, we're trending at our flat enrollment. So that's good in terms of the LCFF projections, but we still need to make sure that our students are coming to school. And because of the pandemic, those attendance rates dropped pretty dramatically for most districts in California. The other consideration or risk is the expiring and the spending down of one-time funds, because we do have positions related to those one-time funds. And so, we've just got to make sure that we're balancing out all of these different types of funding sources to maintain that level of service. Also, there are cost increases related to STRS and PERS rates, health benefits, and other operating costs, for example, insurance and utilities. And then lastly, the state economy. Just as a reminder, our filing for our taxes got extended to October, or I believe it's the 18th. So the state does not have the tax data that they normally get in April. And so I think we're all anticipating to see how those numbers come in, and then see what the state does with that information. And then to the next slide, basically, I'm just outlining the budget calendar timeline. So we're presenting the unaudited actuals in September. In December, we'll come back and present the first interim report. Again, a reminder, the audit report's due to the state on December 15th. And then in January of 2024, we start the budget development process for the fiscal year 24-25, starting with the governor's January budget proposals. And then again, that's when we start here at Mount Diablo with our budget development. And then fast forwarding to March of 2024, we'll be presenting the second interim report. So with that, that's the highlights of the unaudited actuals. I can take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments before we do public comment or after? Go ahead, Trustee Collins.
I just want to say thank you for this excellent presentation. You answered some of my questions in your presentation, so that was really great. I think it's, I appreciate that you explained how it is that federal funds get spent and incurred at the same time as far as revenue. That was helpful, I think, for the public to understand. Can you speak to the commitment section, legal settlements, because that's an item that has not been in our committed section of our finances before, but my understanding is that things have changed, laws have changed.
So the legal commitments set aside, we originally, as part of the adopted budget, set aside 2.5 million, and that was primarily related to Assembly Bill 218, which is the claims of sexual and molestation claims. And so we have a few of those pending with the district, and so we do not know what that liability could be. Also, the district has some other legal upcoming legal settlements related to Clayton Valley Charter School. And so that's why the difference between the adopted budget and the unaudited actuals, because we're taking into account that potential settlement agreement with Clayton Valley.
Thank you.
Trustee Mayor, did you have anything? Okay, I thought you were reaching. Anita Johnson.
I appreciate that Mr. Vargas seems dedicated to accurate budgeting. I really, really appreciate that. That is really good news. I am really glad to hear from the superintendent that enrollment is flat this year rather than declining. My suggestion is that perhaps the future year, the 3-year projections will be adjusted to reflect either flat enrollment or increasing enrollment, because currently what's in the report shows declining enrollment. So maybe when we see the next report, it can have that enrollment as flat, and that can't be listed, that wouldn't be listed as a concern. My ask, the reason that I put in for this comment is that in the future, if a manager calls out declining enrollment as a concern, my ask is that either they or another manager first take the opportunity to apologize to the community for everything management has done to cause declining enrollment. Management has taken several actions that cause declining enrollment. Declining enrollment is not a random act of nature. It is not inevitable for this district. Enrollment declines when parents decide to take their children out of the district or to not enroll for another year. Families leave our district when management cancels transfers that were previously approved. I'm talking about intra-district transfers from one district into our district, and it boggles the mind that management would renege on a transfer for a student who wanted to come to our district, why we would say no and send that student away. Families also leave our district when management cancels transfers from one school to another within our district. When management reneges on these agreements, parents are angry and disappointed, and they often disenroll, and this causes declining enrollment. Families leave our district when their student is in a class that does not have a teacher. Vacancies are not acceptable to parents. Vacancies cause declining enrollment. Families leave when classes are overcrowded. Reasonable class sizes would help this district maintain enrollment. These are just some of management decisions that are causing declining enrollment. I encourage this board to set a goal of increasing enrollment and to start by addressing these practices. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Reynolds.
Thank you. This agenda item is for the district's unaudited actuals for the 2022-2023 school year. Attached to it, there's a PDF that are the unaudited actuals. Page 6 of 138 of that document, column C, line C, lists your excess revenue for last year, your surplus revenue, revenue that you took in that you did not spend to attract and retain the best educators for our students. That excess revenue that you took in last year and did not spend was $57.795 million. On page 7 of 138 of the unaudited actuals, column C, line 2, it lists your ending fund balance, the total money that you have sitting in an account somewhere, money that you have amassed that you are not spending on the education of our children. $182.609 million. You have an ending fund balance that is 42% of your revenue. The state says, by law, you should not have more than 10% in your reserves. Your ending fund balance was 42% of your revenue. Our students deserve the best. You have the funds to make changes to better serve our students. You're spending too much on outside services and contracts. Much of that is spent on contracted workers for positions that should be employees, but you have a problem attracting and retaining the educators our students deserve. The cost of living adjustment, or COLA, for the 2022-2023 year was 13.26. 13.26 new ongoing dollars for LCFF funds, your largest source of revenue. The COLA for this year is 8.22%. 8.22% new ongoing dollars for LCFF funds this year. More new ongoing dollars are projected for next year and the year after. Promethean boards do not attract and retain educators. TNTP does not attract and retain educators. Better salaries, benefits, working conditions, smaller class sizes, and more enrichment programs will attract and retain educators and better serve our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? This is action. Can I get a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the certification of Mount Diablo Unified School District's 2022-23 unaudited actuals financial report.
I'll second it.
Trustee Barrios.
Yes.
And that passes. 16.2, review of changes to board policy 6159.2, 6174, and administrative regulation 6174.
I don't think there's a presentation for this, just if you have any questions, I have staff.
Okay. This is just for information and we will act on it later. Any questions, fellow trustees? Okay. 16.3, review of new board policy 6173.4, education for American Indian students, replacing board policy 6173.4, Title IV Indian Education Program.
Same, if there's no questions, then we're requesting approval of this item.
It just says info. It doesn't have action.
For the next one.
Uh-huh. Is that?
Good evening. Just one point of clarification. We currently do not have in our district a board policy 6173.4. So even though it says this is a replacing, we certainly do not have one. So we are looking to add one.
Adding.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. This is one I was reflecting on earlier, because it says specifically in there around, I should open it. I don't want to make things up. Sorry. It wasn't open. Hold on. Developing a thorough shared understanding of accurate, high quality curricular materials about the history, culture, and government of local tribes, and developing such materials for use within the district that include tribal experiences and perspectives. And it just made me think about the sometimes horrific things we see around Thanksgiving holiday. And that maybe this is a policy to lean into that would make those things stop. So I can't wait to vote on this next time.
I want to acknowledge and appreciate staff for bringing this forward. I have quietly raised the question and asked about the programs that we're providing for American Indian students across the district over many years. Just as some words are used to describe people of color. The word squaw is often used with, has been used with my daughters. And so we need to do some great education in this area too. And the decline in registration for the program that's now currently overseen by the Martinez Unified School District for our American Indian students is disturbing for me, because I know that that number is not declining, and I would like to understand more how we provide outreach to families to register for programs like that. I do recognize and need to say that not all tribes are eligible to register for that particular program. What I was excited to see was in Dr. Clark's presentation tonight that the Cherokee tribe and many tribes from South America were included in the list by the students from Concord. So it is heartwarming that there are students that are proud enough to indicate their heritage, and we need to celebrate that. So that brought some joy to my eyes. I'm looking forward to understanding how this policy will benefit us more and benefit our students more once the policy is enacted. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Anyone will have any future agenda items to propose here? Trustee McFerrin.
Potentially, I'd be really interested, just kind of in, especially in hearing about and discussing concerns around fentanyl and kind of the education we've been doing. I don't think we've talked, and I'd be interested to know a little bit about what health education looks like for students in the district, elementary through high school, especially if it would be of interest to anyone else.
The whole master's degree is health education.
And I look forward to hearing more about the parties that we're going to be celebrating with our Hispanic culture.
Thank you. Given that, we are adjourned at 8 o'clock.